ran a synthetic survey to understand attitudes towards data in the marketing industry. I love this survey. Why don't we first tell people who took the survey?
1,000 global CMOs from mid-size to large enterprises, 500 in B2C, 500 in B2B.
So this is a synthetic sample, AI-generated respondents.
Just for CMOs.
And what did we ask, Jon?
Three simple questions were, one, does more data help you make better decisions? 80% of respondents said, yes, more data helps you make more decisions. But that's not it, Peter. It gets even more interesting.
It gets even more interesting? What was question number 2, Johnny? I'm waiting with bated breath.
Does more data make you feel more confident? And what do you think people said?
Of course it must.
Now, so 87% of people said, yes, more data makes me feel more confident. But in these surveys, always good to kind of invert, ask a kind of question that would put these things in tension or in conflict. And so here we asked, has too much conflicting data delayed your decisions? 75% of people admitted to sometimes or frequently having conflicting data delaying their decisions.
Right.
I've never liked the phrase data-driven at all. I mean, I think data-informed makes a lot of sense. Data-driven, I've never liked. I feel like it's data driving you off a cliff sometimes. Like, you do need to think about the questions that are deriving the data. I also think the point about speed is critical. I mean, you now have to make faster and faster decisions, and you typically have to make it with like 70% of the data you want. Like the Bezos thing.
There's a Bezos quote, right?
Bezos,
What does he say?
Get 70% of the data you think you need to make the decision, and then make the decision. Like,
right.
There is no such thing as perfect information. There's 70% information,
and
then make a decision.
the time it would take you to get from 70% of the right data to 100%, you don't have that time. Better to make a quicker decision on less data, right?
I'm amazed by how many times people just kind of, without even being prompted, will say like, oh yeah, like I wanted data to make this decision. The data came in 6 or 9 months later. And by the time I got the data, it was no longer useful. It was outdated. It was stale. Paul Slovich is a psychologist. He studies how people make decisions in an uncertain world. And he has this kind of a big idea that actually when you give people more information, they feel more confident, but they don't get more right. He runs this horse racing experiment that is essentially a commentary on kind of big data and big data culture before it even existed. What he does, he takes 8 expert handicappers and he gives them different amounts of information. He gives them 5 pieces of data and then asks them to predict the winners. Then he gives them 10 pieces of data. Then he gives them 20 pieces of data and finally gives them 40 pieces of data about the horses and asks in each case them to predict the winners. And with 5 pieces of data, they were able to achieve 17% accuracy. He also measured confidence, which is fun. And they were 19% confident. When they had 8 times as much data, so 40 pieces of data about the horses, they still only achieved 17% accuracy. So the accuracy did not move at all with 8 times more data. But the confidence almost doubled, went up to 31%. So this is a really interesting idea around the perils, right? It's kind of the accuracy may or may not get better, even among absolute experts, but the confidence will go way up. And when you're way more confident, but no more accurate, you can make really bad decisions.
So I think the concept that really explains this is the signal to noise ratio. And the idea there is that in any data set, you have signal and you have noise. Signal is the stuff you need to pay attention to, the 5 critical pieces of information, right? Noise is noise. It's just more data, and if you pay attention to it, you may actually be following something that's not true or not accurate, right? And I think the key finding, anytime you look at this, is that most data is noise, not signal. It's like, let's say, 10% signal, 90% noise. Stocks is a great example of the signal-to-noise ratio. If you look at stocks every single day, like the S&P 500 or an individual stock, you see a ton of ups and downs, right? It's super erratic, it's up, it's down, things look quite chaotic. If you sort of zoom out and look at stocks over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you start to see the signal, which is that stocks are basically always going up over time if you have a broadly diversified portfolio. So I think there's actually 2 interesting points there, which is like, how do you distinguish between signal and noise? One of them is time, right? Time distinguishes between signal to noise. Forget about big data. This is the idea of long data. It's like if you look at data over a longer period of time, you're much more likely to see signal, not noise. So you see this in brand marketing, yes, where people want more frequent brand tracking, even though a lot of what you just see is noise when you look at the data that often. You also see it even in performance marketing, where clients are like, oh, I ran the campaign for only 3 days. I looked at the CPL every single day. Oh, it's up. I'm going to do more. Oh, it's down. I'm going to do less. And it's like, you're just reacting to noise. You're day trading on noise, right? Because actually what will happen is if you let it run for a little longer, if you let it run for a month or 3 months, you'll have a much longer data set, and you're much more likely to make a decision based on signal, not noise.